Hello, welcome to our AppInventor tutorial series. Today we are going to look at using the slider component. So we'll create a new project and call it sliding tutorial. And we can't have spaces. Now the slider component's really quite useful, and what I'll do is I'll just demonstrate the uses to which we can put the slider. So we have a title, and we'll say welcome to sliders, and let's just connect up to the emulator. The slider is a component that allows you to provide input to the app by sliding the slider from left to right, and you can set the range of values that the slider can range from. So we'll just let the emulator get loaded. Alright, so titles we've seen before. The slider has a minimum value. Well, I'm going to go from, let's say, 6 to 40. And what we're going to use the slider for, I'll call it font size. We're going to use it to change the font size, or font slider. Font size slider, so we know exactly what it is. And we also want these components, just enter slider tutorial so that the app displays slider tutorial at the top instead of screen 1. And we'll also, because I like to put the labels in, have a little underline feature and center everything in screen 1. That doesn't look very centered to me. That's okay. The width is, yeah, we'll make the width automatic. We could make it fill the parent. We'll have a look at both of them, and we can give it a fixed size. In fact, let's give it a fixed size of 150 pixels. So the graphic doesn't display well in the designer, but it does in the emulator. Now you'll notice that the thumb position, although we've got a minimum value of 6 and maximum value of 50, and we'll just put 50, otherwise we get fractional numbers. The thumb position is 40. We'll make it 24 to start with. So how do we respond to the slider? Well, we can. There's just one event, and that's slider position changed. When the slider position changes, we want to change the size of the title. Sorry, yeah, the font size of the title. So we're going to set the font size, and if we just position the mouse over thumb position, we get two variables. So we're not pressing anything, just position the mouse and I can get thumb position so let's have a look. So as I change the slider, it changes the size of the font from, I think we said 6 to 40. So really quite useful. What if we want several sliders? Let's go back to the designer and we'll put another separator in there. And below that we're going to have a series of sliders, 3 sliders. 1, 2, 3. And in fact, why don't we put them in a, we'll start with a horizontal arrangement, which is fill parent. Inside the horizontal arrangement we're going to have a vertical arrangement, which is going to be on the left, and on the right we want a button which will also be fill parent. Actually we'll make the button width fill parent, and then we're going to drop these sliders in there. Color combinations. And for the height of the button we want to fill parent so that it fills the horizontal container, and we'll make these sliders, we need maximum value 255, minimum value 0, thumb position 120. And we'll do the same for maximum value 255. You can guess that if I'm going from 255 0 to 255, I'm going to be doing something with colours. And for the final one, 255 0 and thumb position 120. I'm going to change the width of the button to, let's make it 70 pixels. And then the vertical arrangement needs to fill parent. That's better. And I also want the sliders to fill parent. Alright. And we want no text displayed. So go to the blocks editor and we need 3 variables, one for red, one for green, one for blue. In fact, if we change the names of the sliders, rename red slider, rename green slider, and rename blue slider. So what we want to do is for that button, which I should rename color, I want the color when the button is clicked, when color click, set the background color to, and we want to make a color, make a color, and the color is going to be the 3 slider values. So if we say red slider, thumb position, we can copy and paste, and to change these to green slider and blue slider, reset the connection, connect to the emulator, and so we should be able to select the 3 sliders in terms of the amount of red, green and blue that we want, and when we click on the color button, it should give us the resultant combination of those three colors. And so we'll be able to see that sliders are quite useful and easy for the user to provide input to an app. All right. Actually, let's embellish this a little. If we change the color of the red slider to red, the green slider to green, and guess what? The blue slider to blue. Then, and we also want to drop in here a label, and that label just provides a bit of padding, a couple of spaces, so that the button isn't directly or physically connected to the slider vertical arrangement. And we'll just drop one more label in for good measure, and also make that a single space. We'll make that 1 space, not 2, and we'll call, rename pad 1, and just for completeness, pad 2. So if we reset connection, I've got to quit the app. The wheel of death means it's got too much work to do. Yeah, I think the emulator has crashed. I'll just pause the video and reload it once the app is running again. Yes, the app has crashed, so I'll stop the video. Actually, it's useful for me to show you what to do when the emulator crashes. So the way to stop an app. So if you want to stop an app, you press on an Apple anyway, Alt, Command and Escape. And I'll just bring into view so that you can see it, and a window comes up. Now what this is showing me is I've got two emulators, so that probably means, yes, sure enough, I've got a 556 and a 554. So if I force the quit of the one that's not responding, which I'm fairly certain is 554, force quit, and let's see if we can reconnect. So connect to emulator and see if it can detect the already there. No, it didn't, so I'll just close that. It's starting a new one, and I can move that out of the way. In fact, I can just close it down. Alright, it's going to take a while for this emulator to get up. Again, I'm going to pause the video, and actually I'm sure you can handle an additional 10 seconds. So we provided some labels to pad out the display so that it looked a little bit more professional, and that's a useful way of laying things out by providing labels that have no content or just a space amount of content, or no content and a fixed width. Alright, good. So I don't need to say that this is the red slider or the green slider or the blue slider. I've changed the colors of them. So let's just go back. I changed the color, and I could change the color on the right. Actually, let's do it for the blue one. That kind of makes more sense. So the blue, there are two sets of blue. So if I look at the color right and make that blue, and the color left a lighter blue, then we should have something that reflects the two shades of blue. And in the blocks, font slider, color right, and we say red, and then I can quickly change that to a lighter red. Or pink, and in fact we don't want color right to do, we want color left to be, when font slider, So let's do this on an init. So because, just show you what's going on, because in the designer we have a limited set of colors for a light red. Oh, there is a pink here. Anyway, we'll get the idea. For a light red, what we can do is we can, when the screen initializes, we can say set the, but it's not the font size slider, it's the red slider color left to a kind of pink. And if we copy and paste that, we can set the red slider color right to a darker red. Actually, that's the wrong way around. Yeah, so it's a light red on the right and a dark red on the left. And I'll just do it for the reds. You can do it for the greens and the blues. So click on a color, click on a color, click on a color. And you can see it's a quick way of setting inputs, and it's a little exercise for you to display the numerical values of the sliders. So sliders are quite intuitive. A user immediately knows what to do with a slider, and it's a convenient way for setting inputs. And all we need to do for a slider is to respond to the position changed. So that's the end of our slider tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will use these in your apps. Actually, there is one more thing I want to do. I want us to be familiar with setting apps out such that the screens are separated. So if we make this rename screen 2, and we make that hidden to start with, and that's a label. Actually, let's make it visible again. Screen 2 showing. Yes, we actually want that to be this is quite fiddly. It's fiddly because the vertical arrangement. So in screen 2, what's screen 2? Screen 2 is there, and above the vertical arrangement, no, not there. Alright, let's cheat and select the vertical arrangement, move it outside, put the color combination in. That is, and then we'll take the vertical arrangement and put it back in there. We don't want the padding there, we want the padding here, color combinations. Still not right. I should have built these up bit by bit. It's very fiddly, as you can see. Alright, so why don't we put another vertical arrangement, layout, vertical arrangement, in which we'll put the color combination, then we'll put the other and if we now make that vertical arrangement fill parent and center everything in the vertical arrangement, then we get what I'm trying to achieve. Now I can rename screen 2, must have a different name, and slider group, so we know exactly what they are. That. Alright, so if we hide that and drop a button on here, and the button will simply next color screen. So go to color screen, which should be not visible, good, and with the go to color screen connects reset connections color emulator. What I'm going to do is when the color screen go to color screen button is pressed, I will simply hide hide screen 1 and make screen 2 visible, but screen 1 is actually everything, since screen 2 is contained within screen 1. And so what I'm going to have to do is have another arrangement, a vertical arrangement, in which I drag and drop the title, the rest of them. So let's get a layout, vertical arrangement, and so welcome to sliders goes in there, the line goes in there, the slider itself goes in there, and the button taking us to the next screen goes in there. We select the arrangement and vertical arrangement, width is fill parent, click OK, align center. Alright, good. So let's call that rename screen 1 blocks. So screen 1 visible, and the button go to color screen. When that's clicked, copy screen 1 visible to false, just type false, copy the entire line, copy and paste, drop it in there, change screen 1 to screen 2 and change the false to true. And then we have a better organized app. So whenever you produce your apps, get used to having separate screens. Go to the color screen and that's why I'll just spend a couple of seconds putting label 2 label 2 is the line. Where's the pad? So if I make screen 2 visible and grab hold of that first pad, drag it between the two, and then we should have the perfect display. Except that I want, well, I can just press that, can't I? Bit of a cheat, but you get the idea. And you can see that the layout looks much better. We could also do with a pad on the left hand side, but that's an exercise for you to do later. So, although I've already said that's the end of the tutorial, at this time it really is. Enjoy your programming with AppInventor.